Andy from Single Malt. How you going? Today we're going to do the Dalmore 12-year-old. Now, Dalmore has come an awfully long way in a very short period of time. We first saw the Dalmore when it was first released in Australia about 5 years ago now. It was, it was a very enjoyable whiskey from my recollection, but it's actually really done very well. It had very good contemporary packaging. It was a pretty nice whiskey. But what I'm looking forward to is seeing how it's changed in this period. And I really hope that the quality of the product has kept pace with the marketing. Marketing of Dalmore has just gone ahead leaps and bounds. They've done really well gaining distribution and presumably sales here in Australia, attributable, I suppose, to some very good work by the distributor and excellent marketing out of Dalmore. The first thing you learn in marketing, I guess, are the 4 Ps, right? Product, place, price, and position. So, is the product going to live up to all the hoopla? Well, we'll wait and see. I'll open it in a sec. The true strength of Dalmore, though, most recently, is a wonderful partnership with Gonzalez Biaz, which make a 30-year-old Methuselah Oloroso sherry. So this whiskey is aged for 10 years, 9 or 10 years in bourbon barrels, ex-bourbon barrels, and then half of the spirit is split off to be aged in these 30-year-old Methuselah barrels. So we should have some pretty rich and intense sherry characteristics and 30-year-old Oloroso sherry characteristics, no less. What I am a little disappointed with already about this whiskey is that the colour I'm looking at is not reflective of the true colour. It does have caramel added, and the only reason I know that is because despite being fluent in neither Danish or German, Google is a wonderful thing, and a print in the back, this is in my worst Danish, Farven Justeret met Karamel, which I found out is caramel added, and in German, mit Farbstoff Zuckerkeller, which is somewhere between a French and German accent for caramel added. So this is not actually the true colour. It's overtly bronze, isn't it? You would expect to see some bronzing from a whiskey aged in sherry, but come on, that's a bit over the top. I don't know if it adds flavour. I've only heard there's a few whiskey snobs who are particularly against caramel being added to whiskies. I've never really heard the reason behind them being against it, other than, it's not true. It's very much a Highland whiskey, well in the Highlands, but ironically it's on sea level, down in the Cromarty Firth, so right in the very northern part of Scotland, north of Inverness, is a firth, like an inlet that comes in off the North Sea, so there should be some maritime influences, maybe some salt, some seaweed, perhaps briny characters, but we'll wait and see. So let's give it a crack and see how it looks, eh? Pop. The first smell was actually like a spiritousness. That was hard to say. But it's like a like yeah, it's like the smell of the raw spirit. And if I made my own whiskey, it would probably smell like what would come off the top of the still if I had one, which I don't because it's illegal in Australia to make your own whiskey unless you have a license. But that's dissipated pretty quickly. Oh, and I get, oh, actually that's vanilla. A really nice punch of vanilla pod. And I mean, a lot of the stuff you'd expect, like the dry raisin, coming out of a sweet sherry. Oloroso is like the sweeter end of the sherry cask. So yeah, a lot of those dried fruits, dried grapefruit, not grapefruit, but you know, dried grapes. So sultanas, raisins, currants, blah blah blah. It's a lot drier than it smells. A hell of a lot drier than it smells. Where on the nose you get these, a lot of the dried grapes, currants, sultanas, raisins. Not on the palate. Very dry. Clean, but yeah, very really savoury characters. Very, very different to what I was expecting. Mm. Um, some whiskies I talk about lusciousness, or um, uh, one of my favourite expressions is a lanolin. It kind of leaves like an oily coating on your mouth. Well, this is the opposite. This is just crisp and clean. It's like, I guess it's like a Sauvignon Blanc style, if you think of it in the white wine kind of context, where it just cleans your palate and leaves you with a nice warmth, yeah, and yeah, like a dry cleanness on the end palate. Certainly not unpleasant, but perhaps a little misleading from the initial aroma. Certainly more driven by the nose than the palate, but yeah, quite a pleasant little whiskey, and yeah, it's certainly one to enjoy. I hope you enjoy it. I certainly am. I can't taste any like caramel flavour, so if it's been used in there for colouring, but I can't. And if anything, it's a very dry whiskey rather than a sweetened whiskey with caramel. So judge it for yourself. See what you think. Yeah, don't go by the colour because that's just silly. It's just way too dark for what it should be. But interesting little whiskey. Enjoy it. Cheers.